Over the mid to late 2010s, we witnessed some surprising developments in the world of adult animation. Following a boom of unique and innovative shows from the late 90s and early 2000s that were mostly deemed failures and swiftly cancelled by the respective networks, executives fell back on what was safe and profitable, which almost exclusively meant shows that attempted to emulate what was already successful. So we got less stuff like Duckman, Mission Hill, Clone High and the Oblongs, and more things like Brickleberry. Now, there was still some really good examples of adult animation in those years, mostly from Adult Swim, but despite how they tried, none of these shows could hope to compete with institutions of television like The Simpsons or South Park. That was until early 2011 when a new animated series entered the scene. While not getting off to the best start with a similar brand of crude and offensive humour that seemed synonymous with the genre, over its first few years on the air, Bob's Burgers would find its creative voice and start to make a name for itself through its offbeat dialogue, spectacular music, wonderfully creative stories, and most notably, the wholesome interactions between its cast. Whereas so many other adult shows derive their comedy from their characters being cruel, Bob's Burgers became a breath of fresh air for having a TV family that liked each other most of the time. Fast forward to today, where the show, now 14 seasons, over 260 episodes, and one cinematic feature deep, Bob's Burgers has not only managed to maintain, but improve its quality, and shows no signs of slowing down, truly joining the ranks of the best animated series of all time. So in the late 2010s, when Fox was looking for yet another series to add to its animation domination lineup, a show in a similar vein seemed like a no-brainer. So they approached Wendy and Lizzie Molyneux, a sister writing team who had worked on Bob's from the very first season, to come up with a brand new show for the network.
Look up there!
What do you see? Nature and stuff.
Like a rock. And a tree.
The Great North.
Hi folks, welcome to the show, where today I'm going to be talking about one of my favourite animated series currently airing in an effort to make more people aware of it, The Great North. Because what I've found is that most people who know of the show to an extent have mostly written it off as another Bob's Burgers, not really looking beyond the surface level, which is a real shame because this show is fantastic. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to see just what you've been missing. Premiering in early 2021, The Great North takes place in, well, the Great North. The show is set in the fictional Alaskan town of Lone Moose, and follows a family called the Tobins as they navigate their eventful and often chaotic lives. Beef Tobin, voiced by Nick Offerman, is a fisherman and single dad whose life is built around raising his children after his wife Kathleen left him at some undisclosed time before the series began, with him still struggling to fully move on, though he's helped by his 4 kids, all vastly different ages. Wolf, voiced by Will Forte, is the oldest of the brood who strives for his father's approval while also discovering his own independence, starting a new chapter with the love of his life, Honeybee Shaw, voiced by Dulcie Sloan, who has recently moved from her home in Fresno after Wolf and her fell for each other in a Shrek fandom chat room. It's a lot more romantic than it sounds. Then there's the teens of the household, Judy and Ham. Judy, played by Jenny Slate, is a driven and artistic go-getter with big dreams but often gets in over her head, while Ham, voiced by Paul Rust, is a sensitive soul with a passion for baking who just wants to help people. The two share a special bond, referring to themselves as Alaskan twins, despite them being born 9 months apart. And rounding out the main cast is Moon, played by Aparna Nancherla, Beef's youngest at 10 years, an old soul who has a fierce love for the outdoors and surviving in the wild. Though despite putting forth this image of being totally self-reliant and mature for his age, he is often forced to admit how much he still needs his family. And as to be expected, given it's a show concerned with both the history and current goings-on of a small town, the series is littered with memorable reoccurring side characters who slowly get fleshed out over time and even get their own arcs in later seasons. The series opens with the episode Sexy Moose Adventure, because episodes of this show are called adventures, which I think is a really charming detail, even if a large portion of episode titles don't exactly make that much sense grammatically, where they kind of just have a regular episode title with a fun pun or a reference to a movie, then tack on adventure at the end, but I still like it. The actual plot of the episode is about Judy's 16th birthday, where she is also celebrating her first job at the local mall's photo studio. The only problem is she doesn't quite know how to break the news to her father, who is quite resistant to change.
When Mom ran off to Pennsylvania to be with her lover, Marcus, my dad told us all that she got eaten by a bear in the Value Buy parking lot. But she's alive, and we all know that. And ever since then, he just wants the whole family to be together all the time. It'll break his heart if I can't be on the boat from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
The birthday plans are thrown awry when a wild moose breaks into the house and makes off with Kathleen's possessions, the last things Beef had to remind him of his departed wife. And he doesn't take it all too well, meaning Judy can't tell him about the new job out of fear he might have a full meltdown.
So your dad pretends your mom's dead, and you pretend to believe him?
And we never talk about it, and we never will.
Perfect system.
And Wolf also had something he was planning to tell his father. With him and his fiancée Honeybee planning their wedding, they've decided it's time to move out to the guest house a few meters away. However, Beef has a special birthday surprise for his daughter at the mall, a photo from the very place Judy is about to start working at. We also see there's something going on between Beef and the manager of the store, Allison.
Well, great to see you all. And Judy.
Yeah?
Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, and Judy.
Yeah?
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, now I remember. I'll see you back here on Tuesday for your shift from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Thus, Judy has no choice than to come clean, and Beef becomes completely despondent, leading to Judy agreeing to quit the job so things can go back to normal.
No, Judy, you can't give up on something so important to you. Just like moving into Mom's old guest cabin is important to me and Honeybee.
What?
Well, you gotta know sometime, Dad.
Also, I am gay.
Ham, we know. You've come out to us a bunch of times.
I have.
Yes, and we love you just the way you are, damn it!
Beef leaves the party to go search for the moose and reunite with Kathleen's clothes while everyone looks for him. In his delirious state, Beef falls into an ice chasm and hurts his foot right before Judy tracks him down.
Just leave me here, Judy. I have a broken foot and a broken heart, and my one job was to keep my family together, and I couldn't even do it. I lost your mom, and then I lost her hair extensions and her fur bikini. So go, and tell everyone I died doing what I loved, being your dad.
Judy confronts her dad about his living in denial until everyone else finds them, as does the moose.
What is it with this guy? He's like my Moby Dick, or ow! I'm his Moby Dick? I'm realizing I never actually read it.
Moon is able to save them, and Beef decides it's time to accept reality, reading Kathleen's goodbye letter, which he hasn't opened for all these years because he didn't want it to be real.
It just says, smell you later.
Still, Beef has taken that first step towards being able to move on from the past and being okay with change, accepting that Wolf and Honeybee want to move out and telling Judy to keep her job at the mall.
I know you've got your mother's creative side. She loved Color Me Mine. She robbed one once.
Thanks, Dad. I love you.
I love you too, Judy.
While not an outstanding first impression, this pilot showcases how much potential and room to grow the series had, introducing us to each of the family members and showing how they play off each other. Though perhaps more than that was the sheer amount of heart, with it fully exploring how Beef is still grieving over his wife leaving him, despite the show making it clear that she is not a great person, down to the kids admitting things got better after she left. On top of that, it's simply a very funny episode, giving us a taste of the deadpan and observational humour that this show excels at.
Elevator in progress? Well, we're all in progress till we die, Elevator.
As of when I'm recording this, The Great North has been on the air for over 2.5 years, and in that time has produced 55 episodes across 3 seasons, with a 4th slated to premiere sometime next year. And despite my claims that the show is vastly underrated, which I stand by, it hasn't been doing all too bad for itself, with most episodes reaching close to and sometimes even above 2 million viewers, which for cable network ratings post 2016 is very impressive. Alright, maybe the show isn't in danger of getting cancelled anytime soon, but I still want to tell as many people about it as possible because then I'll actually have people to talk to about it. So, why should you watch The Great North? I don't consider it a stretch to say most families on TV aren't exactly the healthiest units, because of there being this pre-existing idea that in order for comedy to work, there has to be some element of conflict, which in a lot of shows essentially boils down to the characters constantly throwing insults at each other. That's not to say these kinds of dynamics haven't been done well in the past, but a lot of times it can be taken too far, to a point where an audience can have a hard time buying that deep down these characters love each other, especially with shows that go on a bit too long. That, however, is not a problem when it comes to the Tobins, who prove that you can still have an entertaining family sitcom without the dysfunction. Because despite all these characters contrasting personality-wise, very rarely does the conflict of an episode stem from within the household. This is a story of a devoted family who show no insecurity about their love for each other, to a fault. Like the synopsis of the show is this family care about each other so much that it keeps landing them in crazy situations. The season 2 outing, The Great Pumpkin Adventure, is a wonderful example of this, in which Ham joins a punk band at school despite not vibing with that anti-authority message and lack of respect for parents, because Ham has a very good relationship with his dad and enjoys spending time with him, even if it's doing housework. But his new friends convince him to start acting a bit more rebellious, which neither Ham or Beef are prepared for.
I'm quitting Chore Chiefs. At least for a day. Then we'll see.
Whoa.
Well, this is new territory for us, but I guess I should punish you or something for acting out? Maybe go take a break in your room.
Fine.
Do you want to help me finish setting up the TV trays?
Sure.
When the band get a gig at an important town festival, Ham is terrified at the thought of performing this material in front of his dad and storms off stage. When Ham admits what he was about to do, Beef tells him that he's actually been relieved to see him be a little less agreeable.
It's okay to explore your rebellious side.
Really?
Yes, and I would be honored for you to sing a disparaging song about me.
What I think sets the Great North apart from many of its contemporaries is how collectively the kids all cover a wide span of ages which open up a bunch of story opportunities. Moon is 10 years old and has stories about struggling in school and developing social skills. Ham and Judy are in their teens, so often get to explore the fun world of adolescence and all of its confusing feelings while trying to find their voices. Then Wolf and Honeybee explore the adventures of newlyweds, planning their future and figuring out all the little things that will make up their life together. This allows the series to tackle a range of perspectives that you don't really see get explored all that often in the long term. In the season 1 episode, Keep Beef Leaving Adventure, after being bullied in school for still believing in Bigfoot, Moon has a crisis of faith. So the rest of the family keep trying to convince him of the Sasquatch so he doesn't lose his sense of wonder, only to end up making things worse. While Moon has to confront reality, Beef is left to watch his youngest kid's childhood seemingly come to an end before him. So he recruits Honeybee's brother Jerry to dress up as Bigfoot and run past the window of the school to ward off those parts of life that chip away at us a little bit longer.
There he goes, back into the woods. See you, big guy. Thanks for showing up.
Then there's how the series explores the actual sibling dynamics, where they take time to properly flesh out each relationship within the family and how their age difference sometimes creates a bit of friction. Like when Wolf becomes a chaperone on a field trip with Judy and Ham in an effort to prove he is still a fun adult, but after almost getting them all killed, he has to learn to accept responsibility. It simply feels nice spending time with his family who always support each other even with their incredibly different interests. In Season 1, Episode 2, we learn the first of many town traditions, the Feast of Not People, celebrating when the early settlers—
Well, okay, not the first settlers. Those were actually the Alaska natives to whom this land rightfully belongs.
Right.
found ways to survive and no longer had to turn to cannibalism. And every year, the town's very own cake lady makes a huge cake for the community. However, the previous cake lady has recently landed herself in prison.
Turns out the only thing she liked to cook more than cakes was the books for our very small but very violent local mafia.
She made her cake, and now she has to lie in it.
But has been replaced by someone who has taken up the mantle in secret, which turns out to be Ham, who is very stressed over not being able to think of an idea for the festival. Judy is shocked when she learns that Ham has been keeping the secret from her, and briefly questions if they are starting to grow apart, before quickly rushing to his aid when he's at his lowest. With Judy's artistic mind and Ham's baking skills, they come up with something truly revolutionary, a people cake. A statement that the town shouldn't cover up or ignore their history regardless of how disturbing it is. And this theme of confronting the past and exploring historical revisionism is something the show delves into quite often, which we'll circle on back to when I talk about the queer representation. Another detail about the age dynamic between the Tobin kids I'm fond of is how the show makes it abundantly clear how large a hand Wolf had in raising his younger siblings following his mother's departure, especially Moon, thus bringing to light how mature and responsible Wolf really is.
Time for school. Let's head out.
Have fun at school, guys. I've got to stay home and teach Timothy to fly.
No way, bub. You're going to school. Me and Honeybee will watch Tim.
I'll show him Top Gun. If anyone can teach him to fly, it's Maverick.
Though I feel the character who often gets the most poignant stories is Judy, the burgeoning teen artist who is trying to find her voice while dealing with anxieties over growing up. So naturally, episode spotlights on her tend to be a tad more emotional and meaningful. The season 2 premiere, Brace Off Adventure, is the series' first ever musical episode, a trip through Judy's psyche and fears over becoming an adult, centered around the framing device of her at an open mic night, recounting the day she was told her braces would soon be removed.
I just need you to understand. And I need you to understand in the form of a musical that's a tribute to many other musicals.
I likely won't get much more of a chance to talk about the music of The Great North because most of the songs take place over the end credits, but these are some really clever compositions, incredibly catchy, lots of smart lyrics, and always very funny. And for this episode, they really pulled out all the stops.
Attention students!
What is it? What is it?
I have a big announcement.
Forget about the test I have to take in a minute or the fact that it's my birthday today and nobody remembered. What's up with you, Judy?
So glad you asked.
The teens decide to sneak into an over 21 open mic night in Deathcliff, the next town over, somewhere Judy has dreamed of going, though she isn't all too psyched about it. Later in the day, she heads to a dentist appointment, only to be seen by a new doctor who just graduated and is very unprofessional. He tells Judy that later this week she'll have her braces removed, plunging her into an identity crisis. She confides in her abrasive English teacher, who suggests that her fear over getting her braces removed is actually about her dreading becoming an adult, because that means giving up on your dreams and settling for a life of mediocrity.
Let's play some mood music, cause this is kind of a funeral for your childhood. You ever heard of the Beatles?
No! I mean, yes, I've heard of the Beatles, everyone has, but you can't take my braces off, bye!
Judy runs away from the dentist right as a bus pulls up filled with all her teeth, and Judy climbs aboard, only to soon realise that she's now trapped and is going to miss out on her entire life.
Wait, is that a college out there? I bet they have art classes. Should we get off and check it out?
We never get off the bus.
Never?
When Judy starts hinting she wants to leave, the teeth begin attacking her, causing the bus to swerve and drive off a bridge, but it turns out to all be a dream. Judy heads down to the kitchen at 3 AM, only for Beef to walk in.
Did inspiration strike? Should I get the paint?
I had a nightmare about my braces.
Judy expresses her conflicting feelings about getting her braces off, and that she's scared of becoming an adult because of the difficult choices she'll have to make, but doesn't want to close herself off from all the exciting opportunities that could await her.
I want my braces on, but I also want them off. How can I feel both at the same time?
Judy, that's kind of what becoming an adult is. You're never really sure. You just make the best choice you can and see what happens. But you don't have to make any big decisions tonight.
The entire family sings a reprise of an earlier song that tells Judy growing up isn't about following a set path. It's about living your life how you want, taking things at your own pace, and that she will make poor choices, and that's fine because she will survive them.
Now, Moon, finish up this song.
You will be shocked by all the good that your life brings. I'm old enough, I know these things.
Pace yourself.
The appointment arrives only for Judy's regular dentist to tell her that the other doctor was wrong and that Judy isn't quite ready to have her braces removed yet, meaning she gets to enjoy being young a little while longer, though while also knowing she doesn't have to fear becoming an adult in the future. So far, there has been a lot of discussion about how warm, loving, and endlessly supportive this family is, and it's true, that is mostly what the show is about. But of course, they're still human beings with different personalities personalities and will occasionally butt heads, which we find in Season 2, Episode 8, Good Beef Hunting Adventure, a Thanksgiving episode. When the toilet in the guest house leaks, Wolf and Honeybee have to temporarily move back in with the rest of the family, which they're all initially thrilled about, but soon come to realise how difficult it is being cramped together, especially when they all have their own stuff going on. Moon wants Ham to play with him, but Ham is too busy trying to cook something for his boyfriend's family, while Wolf is obsessed with doing housework, which disrupts Ham's chore schedule, and Judy has to memorise a tongue twister of a poem for English class. Tensions rise between the siblings, so Beef, to mend the ever-growing rift, decides to enact the ancient Tobin tradition of a beef hunt.
Wolf told me that when you were kids, every Thanksgiving your dad would send you on an elaborate hunt to test your outdoor survival skills. It's like The Amazing Race meets Survivor, but without a sexy middle-aged host.
Yep, just a sexy middle-aged dad.
Wolf, no.
However, this time around, there's a twist. Rather than a vicious winner-takes-all competition, all the challenges are based on teamwork, reminding them of their most precious moments together and slowly rebuilding their trust. The final challenge is to recite the family motto from a Viking book series they all read as kids called the Hacking Halversons.
I will eat the bones and flesh of anyone who hurts my Halverson brothers and sisters, and I will use their kneecaps as saucers and their skulls as bowls for the stew I made from their brains. All hail Ragnar the Unyielding! Once that's complete, they find Beef, who in this time has fixed the toilet in the guest house.
Usually the beef hunt is about learning to survive in the wilderness, but this year's beef hunt was about learning to be grateful for your family. And I knew you guys would do it. Well, that's not totally true. I also fixed the toilet in the guest cabin in case you didn't do it.
Much like the Belchers, the Tobins are a family who you can feel in every scene how much they truly love each other. But more than that, it proves that it's possible to create a great family sitcom where dysfunction and arguments are not the primary source of comedy, with a wholly unique family dynamic that allows itself to explore premises you don't often see in these type of shows. Wolf and Honeybee are the show's primary romantic relationship, telling a story rarely explored in the landscape of adult family animated sitcoms, that of a still rather new couple starting their lives together. Previously, these narratives have been explored through single flashback episodes where we only see select pivotal moments of the characters when they first fell in love. Wolf and Honeybee demonstrate the day-to-day life of a modern early 20s relationship where by the time the series starts, it's only been around 6 months since the two first met, which is expanded upon in Season 1 Episode 3, Avocado Barda Adventure, where Judy interviews Honeybee as a new resident of Lone Moose who recounts their entire love story up to that point. Honeybee was a recent business college graduate but felt unfulfilled with life in Fresno, especially with her parents trying to induct her into the family business of selling curtains. To cheer herself up, she logs on to famous movie quotes online where she meets Wolf and the two bond over their love of cinema until they decide to meet face to face.
I'm meeting him halfway at the coffee beanery in Vancouver where Terry dies in Final Destination. And if he's not my Shrek, I'll come home. And I'll sell blackout curtains to Draculas and Venetian blinds to nosy neighbors with binoculars if that's what you want.
Meanwhile, Wolf and Moon have been on a fetch quest trying to get some avocados for his and Honeybee's anniversary, which are very hard to come by in Lone Moose. And on the way back, Wolf recounts the story of when they first saw each other, only for both their retellings to sync up at the very end.
I bought a scone for confidence and waited, and then there she was. Oh, it was like...
What was it like when you finally saw him?
Fireworks. It was... perfect.
During Wolf's journey, he runs into his ex who makes him feel insecure by telling him he always goes overboard in trying to create big romantic gestures without really considering if that's something his partner wants. So when Wolf returns, he apologizes for ruining their anniversary, only for Honeybee to bring him back to his senses.
Babe, you need to chill.
Well, it's very hard to chill in the panic room. It's right there in the name.
I love you. You're not gonna drive me away with a box of mushy avocados. Things didn't work out with Laura because she wasn't your Fiona. I am. Besides, I love grand romantic gestures. The grander and romanticer, the better. I can't believe you went to so much trouble for my gift.
And from there, we get to see the two of them just continuously falling more in love with each other as they plan out their wedding, which takes place in the season 1 finale, leading to quite a big status quo change for the series early on, leaving the rest of the show to explore how the pair adjust to married life, from figuring out how to celebrate holidays to trying to start a true crime podcast. Normal newlywed stuff. And in the season 3 outing, Killian's Softly Adventure, we witness them deal with their first big fight over the pronunciation of the name of actor Cillian Murphy.
Hon, you have a history of not knowing how to pronounce names. You thought the guy who wrote Game of Thrones was George Martin.
There are 2 R's there. How else would you possibly say that?
You thought Hugh Grant was Hug Grant.
Honeybee, you know I know how to say Hugh Grant. I was just drunk and thinking about hugging him when I said that.
Okay, Wolf, now you're just being stubborn.
I am not being stubborn.
Unfortunately for them, this happens right before the start of Lone Moose's biannual Survival Day, where in an attempt to ensure the town is prepared for any disaster, citizens submit their scenarios to have one randomly drawn which they then play out. And this year the disaster chosen is a Jurassic Park style dinosaur attack, as submitted by Moon. So right in the middle of their fight, Wolf and Honeybee are separated, with the former being a first responder who drives around finding survivors, and the latter being assigned to the medical tent where she acts like it's one of the hospital dramas that she watches. To quickly run down what the others are up to, Beef is on disaster duty with Honeybee's brother Jerry, where he learns Beef doesn't know how to ride a bike.
When I was a kid, my parents were a bit, completely absent. And because of that, I missed out on a few normal things, like learning to ride a bike.
How about I teach you how to ride a bike? And in exchange, you can teach me something I don't know how to do.
I've always wanted to teach someone how to make a bandsaw from recycled parts.
We'll think of something.
Moon, since he came up with a disaster, is excited because he is the mayor's assistant for the day, only to find he'll simply be doing paperwork. Though much to his surprise, he finds there's something thrilling in the world of bureaucracy, and perhaps he's found his true calling. Wolf rescues Ham and Judy, who are victims, but can't focus because he's worried about his marriage. So they all decide to sacrifice themselves in order to get Wolf to Honeybee so he can apologize.
It's what we've all learned from action movies. A bunch of us are gonna have to die so that the lead guy can say sorry to his wife.
Wolf runs into Jerry and Beef, who give him a ride to the tent. Well, Jerry does, Beef just sorta...
I'm barely moving! I've never felt more alive!
Wolf finally makes it to the tent, where they've been dealing with a case of poisoning from a food truck, and tells Honeybee that he's sorry.
I don't want to fight anymore. In fact, I promise you, I'll never argue with you again.
Wolf, babe, that's not realistic. Couples fight. And then they process things, maybe blow off some steam by driving around listening to Santana featuring Rob Thomas.
How'd you know I did that?
Because I know you, Wolf. And because you listen to that song a lot.
Now's the time to talk about, and by that I mean praise the ever-loving heck out of the Great North's queer representation, which we got a brief hint of in the pilot where we learn Ham is gay. Though it takes a few episodes for that detail to not only become relevant again, but evolve into a full storyline, which is kicked off by Season 1, Episode 6, Pride and Prejudice Adventure, an episode about young love, the problem of viewing straight as the default, and how historians attempt to remove queer people and identities from history despite the fact we've always been here. In the first episode, we learn Judy has an unrequited crush on new student Crispin Cienfuegos, voiced by Julio Torres, who has recently moved from Michigan and works part-time at the smoothie stand in the mall. However, he has no interest in her at all, which is a setup we've seen time and time again, so is clearly set up as Judy's love interest who, as the show progresses, will eventually start to notice her, blah blah blah. The Thomas Wintersbone Memorial Ladies' Choice Dance is approaching. According to historians, Thomas Wintersbone was a teacher at Lone Moose in the 1800s who met the love of his life, Ruby, but was denied her hand in marriage by her father unless he could survive alone in the wilderness.
He promised Ruby that once he returned, they would wed and live together in 2 side-by-side cabins because, as the saying goes, their love couldn't be contained by just one cabin.
Naturally, he dies immediately, and Ruby spends the rest of her life with a broken heart living in the company of her best friend, Anne. So, like the rest of Lone Moose's horrifying past, they decide to celebrate it with an extravagant event.
The girls invite the boys, and the boys who don't get invited stand outside in the snow for an hour in homage to Thomas. But Crispin won't be one of those boys because he'll be trotting into Danceland with moi.
To briefly address the subplot, Beef's brother Brian, played by Rob Delaney, who moved out of Lone Moose a year ago in order to become a hot tub salesman, is coming to visit. Beef is ecstatic to have his brother back, only to witness how city life has changed him. Brian is there to meet with a client, to which Beef forcibly tags along to and ruins the meeting through his lack of social awareness. On the drive back, Brian reveals that he wasn't happy when he lived in Lone Moose, and Beef admits he simply misses his brother, and will try to accept his new lifestyle. Back to the gays, obviously with this being a ladies' choice dance, Ham is essentially disqualified and will have to wait out in the cold by default unless he goes with his cousin Becca. Judy heads to work where all day she is unsuccessful in asking Crispin to the dance. When Ham comes to pick her up, she makes one last attempt, only for Crispin to divert all his attention towards her brother.
Hey, so are you going to be at that dance everyone's talking about?
Oh, he'll be there with our cousin Becca. And you know what I'm just thinking of right now? Is that you should go with me.
Oh, sure. I'll go with you, and he'll go with cousin Becca, and we'll, go together.
Judy is completely oblivious to what's happening as Crispin thinks of an excuse to come over when he really just wants to see Ham. And even with their obvious flirting, Judy can't see what is right in front of her. The night arrives as Crispin waits for Judy to go to the bathroom, leaving him open to ask Ham to dance. Judy is heartbroken and storms off, causing Ham to also leave, saying he's sorry but he can't do this to his sister.
I hate love.
Hey, girl.
Who said that?
I did, you sad, sad lady. Weeping up a storm on my special day.
Judy sees a vision of Thomas Wintersbone, voiced by gay icon Leslie Jordan, in one of his final roles before his passing, who reveals to her the truth, that him and Ruby were never in love, because Ruby was in a relationship with her friend Anne, and Thomas was gay. The two wanted to wed only to avoid persecution, with Thomas promising to build 2 separate cabins so they could continue being with their true loves.
People didn't like the truth of my untimely demise, so they made up a story they found more agreeable. Does that sound familiar? Maybe a little bit like what you've done with yours and Crispin's epic love story?
What? Oh, maybe.
Love is a precious thing, Ladybug. Let Ham have his, and don't waste yours on someone who can't even return it.
I think I know what I have to do.
And you always did. Actually, that's not true. I really had to walk you right up to it.
Now understanding that this whole thing is based on a homophobic lie, Judy pulls the fire alarm, bringing everyone outside and reveals to them what she's learned.
This isn't a love story. It's a story about 2 people who couldn't be themselves. It's a story about someone who died alone in the snow, trying to fit in. If we really want to celebrate Thomas and Ruby, tonight shouldn't be about rules or tradition or staying outside in homage to Thomas. He hated it outside. This should be a night where everyone can have fun, no matter who they are or who they like.
Yeah, and if you're a girl who wants to stay out here and make snow demons under the impenetrable night sky, that's allowed too.
Yeah, sure.
Judy uninvites Crispin and gets Ham to do the thing he should have always been allowed to do in the first place, which starts him and Crispin's relationship. This was the episode that got me hooked on the show, with its thoughtful message about challenging even the most seemingly benign levels of systemic homophobia through tired sitcom tropes in order to tell a beautiful love story between Ham and Crispin. And I am shocked that no one really took notice, especially considering this is the sister show to Bob's Burgers, a series with a massive queer following. There is so much discourse about the double standard in animation where men loving men is seriously underrepresented, yet this has just completely flown under most people's radar, and I don't get it, because what other adult family sitcom out there is doing things like this? This is what people have been asking for right here. You just have to look at it.
Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! I want all of you to look at it!
There is another episode later in the series that provides an honest exploration of the queer experience, specifically the over-sensationalization of coming out within media. As we saw in episode 1, Ham has already come out to his family on multiple occasions, which this story explores. In season 2, episode 20, Say It Again, Ham Adventure, Ham and Crispin are watching a movie about a gay race car driver in which the final scene is him coming out in the middle of a race to the crowd, which is as melodramatic as possible. It's Crispin's favourite movie, but Ham is indifferent because he didn't find the coming out part realistic.
In real life, you just tell your family and they're like, that's great, love you, and then you go back to removing the elderly bear that dropped dead on your property or whatever.
Crispin tells Ham the story of his coming out, where his parents celebrated by lighting fireworks which set their mailbox on fire, saying that coming out is intense. Ham tries to remember the first time he came out to his family, which, as we've established, he's done a lot of times. Crispin suggests maybe this pattern stems from how he's searching for a perfect dramatic moment, so they decide to find someone he has yet to come out to so they can fulfill that need.
We're gonna get you the over-the-top, lightly upsetting coming out that you deserve, I promise.
Crispin, you're the wind beneath my things.
It's wings.
Yep, that was one of the things.
Ham tells his family about this, and they of course agree to help, settling on cousin Danica, who Beef describes as one of the most uptight, judgmental people on Earth. So they set off driving towards her home in Orca Bay while the kids are pumped for the big moment.
I'm glad you guys are excited, but Ham, if the judgment is too harsh, we can get the hell out of there. You just say the word.
They arrive at Danica's and she's just as insulting as they imagine. Right as Ham is preparing to come out to her, they're interrupted by law enforcement as Danica reveals to the family she's actually a wanted criminal.
I simply can't believe it.
I'm shocked.
Did my shoes pop off?
Thank you for sharing your truth with us, Danica. That was very brave.
When Beef tries to get everyone to leave, Danica pulls a gun on them and locks them in the cellar. While they explore and look for a way out, Crispin goes to console Ham.
I brought my whole family here so I could redo my coming out because I thought having some big gasp-filled moment seemed so important to me, but I'm realizing I don't want that. That was just some weird idea that snuck into my brain basket after years of watching movies like Danny Vroom. It doesn't have to be dramatic or full of conflict. It can actually just be full of support, but it's too late now.
Meanwhile, Wolf and Honeybee, who have been off in their own subplot trying to start a true crime podcast, arrive and attempt to save the others, only to get themselves caught, along with the police.
I'm not even interested in killing you guys, but you're kind of leaving me no choice here. What I am interested in is those haircuts. Did you lose a bet? Or are you just very brave?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but can you be nice to these police ladies? You suck!
Through some misdirection, Danica is apprehended and sent to jail as everyone else is free, and Ham takes this moment to apologize for dragging them all into this.
As I was preparing for possible death, I realized something. I've already had the perfect kind of coming out. Many times. The kind that doesn't faze my family. Not even a little bit.
Ham, I'm sorry that I never made a bigger moment out of what was admittedly a very big moment. If I ever seemed too casual, it's just because I was afraid of making it seem like a big deal in a negative way. I can't go back in time, son, but maybe we can make it up to you.
The episode ends with the entire family staging Ham's coming out in the form of a musical number to make it as dramatic as possible, which he is very appreciative of.
I did it. I came out. I said it out loud and I kicked all the shame out.
Baby, you were a star.
And sorry, but I just have to say it. We love you just the way that you are.
This show has yet to be nominated for a GLAAD Media Award, and I am very annoyed at that fact. Because The Great North consistently explores queer narratives and actually talks about what being a gay teenager is like. How people have tried to erase our community from history, dealing with the fact that the traditions and rules of society were never made with you in mind, and how the media still makes a big deal about us existing when that's all we're doing, existing. And this show understands that better than so many others that have been praised to no end for their representation, yet it never gets brought up in those conversations. And now we're just gonna take a quick break from the Great North analysis so that I can tell you all about some of the things I'm currently working on, as well as ways to help support the channel so that I can continue doing this. 4 things in the pipeline. My next video will be my love letter to Steven Universe, reflecting on what it was like to watch the show while it was airing and talking about its current complicated legacy. That is what most of my energy is going to at the moment. However, I do have some thoughts as to what I'll be making next. I have ideas based around Apple TV's recent series Strange Planet, adapted from the beloved webcomic, and a discussion about Nickelodeon's The Wild Thornberrys. If any of that piques your interest, I highly suggest clicking the subscribe button so that you'll know whenever I put new things out. And next, I want to talk about ways y'all can help me continue making these videos and improving as a creator while we move towards the new year. Firstly, when you go on my channel now, at the very top you'll see a section labelled for those who are new around here, which is a collective mix of my most popular videos as well as the videos I am the most proud of. If there are some things in there you haven't seen yet, I would be very grateful if you checked them out, as they are my best work so far. Now, for a while I've had a Patreon, where I post new video scripts, in-progress cuts, and other things occasionally. But I've always struggled when it comes to figuring out what would be some nice perks for everyone. For instance, I have an option where people can request a short audio-only review of a piece of media of their choosing. However, I've only ever actually had 2 people ask for anything. So I'm deciding to get rid of that and replace it with exclusive bonus videos related to my bigger projects. The first of these, my long-delayed analysis of the Bluey episode Sleepy Time, is already out, and I have more planned for the future, including a look at how Recess explores nostalgia, a tirade about Muppets canon that I couldn't find a place for in my recent Muppets Mayhem discussion, and a video ranking Family Guy's iconic Road to episodes. However, if you're not interested in Patreon and would rather stay on one site, I have also recently opened up a YouTube membership, where I'll be posting mostly the same stuff with a few extra features baked in. Becoming a channel member, alongside seeing new videos early and exclusive bonus things, you will also gain access to custom emojis for use in the comments and chat during live streams. I have a few to choose from right now, with the idea being that the community will vote on whichever ones I add next. You'll also be granted a nifty loyalty badge next to your username, which will upgrade the longer you stay a member, going from a symbol of the gods to Scrat's Acorn. And exclusive to YouTube memberships, once we get a few people, I want to start doing members-only live streams. Supporting me via Patreon or channel memberships for as little as £1 or $1.50 per month is the best way to help me continue making better videos for y'all, and keep the channel viable whenever the YouTube algorithm turns on me for whatever reason, such as right now. A link to Patreon is in the description and end card of the video, and the join button for channel memberships can be found just below the video title. But as always, if you're unable to support me financially for whatever reason, that is of course completely fine. The act of subscribing, watching the stuff I put out there, and leaving the occasional comment means so much to me, and I am thankful for each and every one of you. Now back to your regularly scheduled review. Now that I've gushed about the show's gay representation, we also need to look at other ways in which the show tries to be inclusive. You'll hopefully remember a while ago when I played you this clip.
Well, okay, not the first settlers. Those were actually the Alaska natives to whom this land rightfully belongs.
Right. This in itself isn't anything all that special. In fact, we see this thing a lot where shows or movies attempt to lampshade and get ahead of potential criticisms before people even have a chance to make them. The difference is the Great North tries not to stop at lip service, as the series does feature native Alaskans in the cast. Ariel Tweeder voices Kima Evanoff, Judy's best friend who gains a lot of prominence in Season 2, then in Season 3 we meet her parents. Her mother Esther, a smoke jumper played by Princess Desiree Johnson, and her father Walt is played by Brian Westcott, who both have prominent roles in key Season 3 episodes, including the finale. Mayor Peppers, voiced by Raider Wild, is, as his title suggests, the mayor of Lone Moose, who appears in many episodes across the run, playing key roles in stories that involve the wider town. He's pretty much one of the only sensible and level-headed characters in the show, a welcome subversion from other mayors in animated sitcoms.
Let us acknowledge that before this place was called Lone Moose by some very cold and very grabby Europeans, it was the homeland of my ancestors, the Sugpiat people, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And while land acknowledgements are fine, it'd be better if they just went ahead and gave the land back. I'd also like to say that I believe Vera over there took my cupcake caddy Tupperware at last month's bingo night.
Then there's the character of Delmer, played by Aloysius Hooch, an elderly Yupik man who was incredibly close to the family since he was a father figure to Beef and Brian growing up due to their parents' neglect of them. Delmer is one of the show's most prominent reoccurring side characters, being introduced in episode 5 and having many appearances across the show's run, with a spotlight episode in season 2 titled Wanted, Delmer or Alive Adventure, in which Beef gets a call to pick Delmer up from the hospital after he's been injured. Beef brings him to the house and tells the rest of the family that Delmer might have a concussion, and the doctor advises they keep him awake for the next 4 hours. So they decide to all tell Delmer-related stories that Beef used to tell the kids at bedtime, which are of course heavily fictitious, involving aliens, a mutant killer squirrel at a summer camp, and a sea monster. Though it allows Beef to revisit the real memories behind those stories and understand how much of an impact Delmer has had on his life.
And when Kathleen got pregnant, you did take me out fishing.
You were pretty nervous.
But you calmed me down. Delmer, you were my parent when I needed one. And for that, I will always be thankful.
Well, Beef, my boy, I love.
It should also be noted that since the show's premiere, significant effort has been made on the part of the showrunners to include native voices behind the scenes as well as in the cast, meaning later seasons of the show will be able to authentically discuss prominent issues facing Alaskan natives. Though while season 3 was an improvement in that regard, we are still waiting to see this take full effect, as the show has yet to do more with this aspect outside of throwaway lines.
Right after the show started, our casting department reached out to some people in casting in Alaska to find Alaska Native actors to have on the show. So Kima, Delmer, and Mayor Peppers are all Alaska Native characters played by Alaska Native actors. Our plan was, and I don't know if you guys heard about a global pandemic, but there was one. So our plan was we were also going to add Alaska and Alaska Native writers to the writers' room and hire an Alaska Native consultant who had like a really broad understanding of Alaska Native issues in Alaska and actually lives in Alaska. And then again, shut down, kind of like nothing moved forward, but we're really excited that those, because we felt that once those pieces were in place from a production point of view, we can tell those stories because we have characters who are played by Alaska Native actors, but Lizzie and I and the other writers in the room didn't feel an authority to tell those stories in an authentic way. And so now with season 3, with adding staff, we're going to be able to, which we're really excited about. So for people who've asked about it on Twitter, we see it, it's really important to us. We're super excited about it moving forward. It is a big part of, of Alaskan culture. So we just wanted to take a second to talk about that, to communicate that to people out there who were asking about it, about how excited we are about that aspect of the show, going into especially season 3, because we've been able to make some changes in that way, but that it was always the plan from season 1 and then everything happened.
Perhaps the thing that stands out the most about The Great North compared to other adult family sitcoms is how, at its heart, it's a series about exploring messy divorce. Despite Kathleen, at least so far, never appearing in the show, throughout the series you can sense her presence that still constantly hangs over the family. Mostly Beef, who has only just started to move on from the ordeal, which is the focus of season 1, episode 4, Romantic Meat-Based Adventure, where after Judy's imaginary friend, the Northern Lights personified as acclaimed singer-songwriter Alanis Morissette, gets the teen to consider if her reluctance when it comes to dating is because of her father, she calls a family meeting to help Beef get back out there by taking him to a singles mixer where they also auction off various meats. Though Beef isn't the best at social interaction, which comes up often, he still does quite well, only for him to get rejected, which we later learn is because the woman, Del, also has a turbulent past in that all her previous partners died in uniquely gruesome ways. Later Judy goes to apologize, but Beef can tell this had never been about him.
Do you think there's something wrong with us?
Wrong with us? Nah, we're great. We're just also picky and sensitive. And a little dramatic. And maybe watching me get hurt by your mom made you a little nervous about relationships.
Despite Kathleen never appearing on the show, they do often find creative ways to work her into the narrative, with her being described by the creators as sort of the off-screen villain of the show. And this stranglehold she continues to have on the Tobins gets truly unpacked in the season 1 finale, acting as almost a bookend to Beef's initial journey of starting to move on. The preparations are in motion as Wolf and Honeybee's Titanic-themed wedding is only 3 days away. Ham is baking the cake, Beef and Moon are on the decorations, and Judy has made a display for the buffet. Honeybee is determined to ensure that this wedding, based on one of the most horrific disasters of all time, is perfect. There's just one problem, as Wolf calls over Judy to speak in private.
Late RSVP to the wedding, and it's a maybe, so someone isn't sure if they're coming to the wedding, no big deal. And it's from Kathleen Tobin, oh my god!
Wolf has accidentally included Kathleen on the email invite, and now they're freaking out she may show up and ruin the wedding. Moon and Ham soon find out, however, while Wolf continues panicking, they're still unsure if she'll actually show up on the day.
You know what she's like. She's a flake. She would have missed my birth if it was medically possible.
At work, Allison makes a suggestion to Judy that they have a shadow wedding, a decoy wedding to keep Kathleen away from the actual ceremony. And it seems they have a plan to save the big day and their dad, only for Beef to walk in on them talking about it. After a brief meltdown, he composes himself as the kids learn via Kathleen's blog that she just boarded a plane.
Do you feel that, children? The way the wind has stilled in the pines, and the caribou no longer utters its lonely howl. She is set upon us.
Okay, I was wondering what was up with the wind stilling in the pines.
So the kids set out with only a day to plan a faux wedding, with Beef keeping Honeybee and her family distracted while all this is going on. When Kathleen arrives, Crispin will intervene to get her drunk and take her to the shadow wedding, which the kids will then perform before sneaking off to head to the real wedding. It's a foolproof plan that in no way could possibly go wrong. But right before they're ready to put it all into action, Wolf has a wake-up call.
What are we doing? Looking at this perfect costume wedding dress that isn't for my actual bride makes me realize that even though Mom's not here, she's still got us running around like a bunch of chickens with our butts cut off. We gotta come clean to the Shaws that I'm going to be marrying 2 women in one day because we're basically a band of no-good grifters with a terrible family secret.
What?
Oh no.
boy.
Keith!
Oh, good. Now they already know.
The Tobins get the Shaws fully caught up on how awful Kathleen is, and they agree. But Honeybee insists they can't go through with a shadow wedding, causing Wolf to come clean about why he's really freaked out, because of how much better the family is with Honeybee, and that he's terrified of losing her.
No one's judging you but you. Actually, now that I think about it, this thing with your mom is great. I mean, we're having a Titanic-themed wedding, and your mom is our iceberg. And if she tries to ruin our wedding, and we get married and we stay married anyway, then we're the unsinkable Molly Browns. It's proof that we can survive anything together.
So they call off the shadow wedding, and the big day arrives, but Kathleen is nowhere to be found, though the family remains on edge. However, everything goes smoothly. During the reception, everyone gathers, and the kids admit there's a weird sadness that their mother didn't turn up in the end.
I know what you're going through, but look around. Everyone that's supposed to be here is. This is a good day. It is Kathleen who is missing out.
The first episode sets up this is a narrative about Beef accepting his divorce and starting to move on with the help of his kids who had already understood they were better off without Kathleen. The season finale is the first time we get to explore the kids' feelings about what happened and understand that it's a story about how this entire family has yet to truly heal, opening up the door for season 2 to delve into the kids' complicated feelings surrounding their mom, which culminates in the season 3 premiere, A Knife to Remember adventure, which sees the Tobins realize it's time to stop letting the ghost of their mother's presence continue controlling them. When Wolf and Honeybee's car breaks down on the side of the road and it'll take 2 hours for a tow truck to arrive, Honeybee sees a restaurant close by they can wait in, but Wolf says they can't go in there.
That's on Dad's Tobin's no-go-ins list. One of the spots where Mom used to get blackout drunk and pull some of her most notorious fun-anigans. It's strictly forbidden.
I get it. Your mom is haunting you like a Julianne Moore performance, but I'm freezing, so we're going just this once.
They enter only to learn it's actually an amazing and magical place, and soon find no matter how much they try and stay away, they keep finding themselves returning, which Wolf feels guilty over. They decide to tell the other siblings, and soon they're all hooked until Beef catches them and is seemingly distraught. However, while the kids feel guilty, they're also mad that they've been restricted from this place their whole lives and wonder what else has been kept from them. So they decide to cross off the entire Tobin's no-goings list to get it out of their system while Beef is already mad, and they have a really good time.
We went to all these places and nothing bad happened.
I don't know what I thought would happen.
I always thought I'd immediately order a Singapore sling and descend into madness.
Guys, she's not here, and you're not her. You don't have to feel bad about the things she did.
And after this episode, Kathleen doesn't get mentioned nearly as much, and when she does, there's a very different feeling behind it, where you can tell the characters are no longer letting her affect their current lives.
There's one more place we haven't been, so let's get in the car. Mom's favorite place of all, Yankees Grill and Bar.
Ah, crap! My wig's on fire again!
God, nope, Mom can have that one.
Not really relevant to this discussion, but I do want to mention Beef's storyline in the episode is about his difficulty understanding social cues, specifically taking everything literally and struggling with concepts like small talk. I don't really have anywhere else to mention it, but while the entire family have neurodivergent coding to an extent, Beef is really the focal point when it comes to that, which is something nice to see. Often when it comes to media and depictions of autism, it's always about kids or young adults or child-coded characters. Beef representing a lot of these common neurodivergent traits as a middle-aged dad is something very refreshing. After finding out everyone else went to Crocodile Rob's, Beef confides in his friend Laundra and admits something about his forbidden list.
See, I've always let the kids believe that they're not allowed to go there because I had bad times there with their mom. But actually, I had a lot of good times there with their mom. The trouble is, I find good memories to be more painful than bad memories. When I saw the looks on the kids' faces tonight, I thought, this isn't just my problem anymore. I've been standing in the way of them enjoying themselves because of my stupid heart.
So Beef takes his knife club to Crocodile Rob's to apologize to his kids, admitting the truth to them about why he's been avoiding this place, and that it's okay to remember their mom did have some positive qualities, but regardless, they can't keep letting their unfortunate past hold them back. I could honestly keep talking about this show for ages, going into depth about some of the side characters and their arcs, or telling y'all about the incredible 2-part season finale that has left the show in a very interesting place going into season 4, or listing every absurd tradition and competition held in Lone Moose, but I'll leave those discoveries up to you. I sincerely hope through this I have convinced at least some of you to give this awkward yet endearing show an honest chance and see it for its own merits, rather than viewing it as another Bob's Burgers. Because The Great North is a wonderful show starring a likeable and warm family, an offbeat and observational sense of humour, and some really touching stories that a lot of other adult sitcoms would never even think to cover. The next season is hopefully set to premiere early next year, so you've got some time to get caught up before then, and I hope I get to see the lovingly outlandish misadventures of the Tobins for many years to follow. Now I'd like to hear from you. Have you seen The Great North? Are you interested in checking it out after seeing this video? Will you join me in trying to kickstart this fandom? Tell me in the comments down below. I would love to discuss it with you. Until next time, I've been the Gladding Gladiator, and from longest nights to longest day, I'll be here talking about the things I love. As always, thank you tremendously to my Patreon patrons and YouTube members such as The Wacky Deli, Torai Matson, Blas6, Tomb for Thought, and Toby Fangor. If you like what I do and want to help support the future of the channel, as well as gain access to videos early and some other fun perks, you can do so by either becoming a patron or YouTube member. Links and buttons can be found below. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and liking the video. I'm trying to get to 10k subscribers soon, so any help is very much appreciated. Thanks so much for watching, folks, and I'll see ya real soon.